Oh my God.
Oh, that was a different.
That was a different.
Engage.
Before you... It's your boy JS Wanna Supply, VBCRadio.com. We're back in the building with another... I call it an OG edition. You know what I mean? He's not a gangster, but he's, you know what I'm saying? He's definitely one of the original great...
Old people.
Old people. No, you're not old. Well, I mean, you're old now, but you weren't old then. So, like, you know.
Yes, I was younger then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're one of those great... I call him, you are just a great person. You're a great artist. You're a great conversationalist. You're somebody I enjoy. I don't mind... Like, I can sit down and talk to this dude, and then 6 hours will go by, and then we're like, fuck, we've just blown off a whole day type of person. He's one of those phenomenal individuals. I've known him for well over a decade now. Jesus Christ, that makes me not young. Sab Gray is in the building.
It's more like 15 years.
Shit, god damn. Time is flying. Really? God damn. All right. So, how is life for you, sir?
Life is excellent for me.
I think you're at the
life is.
I think you're at the highest point of your life for real. I think you're at the healthiest. You know what I mean?
I certainly am.
I mean, you know, what I'm saying you about to get into the boxing. I was like, you about to go pro boxing.
No, I'm not doing that. But I am a very happy member of Time to Grind Boxing Club.
Shout out to you.
Shout out.
I need to get my fat ass out.
Coach Mac, Allison, and shout out to everybody there.
He is the poster child for over 40, still working out, like getting your life together. You lost mad weight.
Yeah,
you were like at one point you was actually skinnier than this.
I was way skinnier than this. Yeah, I'm about
you put on baby weight.
Yeah, I'm 25 pounds over.
Hey man, you bought the. I asked for the pizza, but you bought a nice size pizza. Thank you. That was working. So, all right. So the reason why I brought you here, and mind you, I just want to tell everybody at home, he was like, why the fuck do you want to interview me? Why would you ever want to get on camera with me? Why? What's the point? Like, because once y'all understand, once we get through this storyline, once we get through everything he's accomplished, all of this creative stuff, this is just a scratch of the surface of all of the things you've created, all of the places you've been, even in the podcast. Have you started to go back and listen to your own stuff on the podcast? Think about all the conversations and like me listening to this, I'm like, yo, goddamn, like the places you've been, the experiences you've had, the ability to pull the stories out of the people you have been able to interview. You know what I mean? That's special, bro.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, man. You got it. You special, man. Not on the little bus special.
I'm embarrassed now.
Yo, come on. Stop being a son of a bitch. Please. Come on. All right. So let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in the United States, actually.
Bullshit.
No.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All these years I've known you? I thought you were born in the UK.
Do you actually want the real story?
I want the real story.
The whole story is...
The whole story.
My parents are foreign. Were foreign. They're all dead now. Mom was English. Dad was German.
Okay.
Dad escaped from the Nazis and came to America. Mom came over, was an economic migrant.
Okay.
And came to the United States in the 50s. She met my father. She was working for him. She was his secretary. Anyway, so...
Sounds like an early porn film. Okay,
yeah, well,
it works. It works. I'm with it.
Apparently it did. But anyway, so when I was pregnant, they were going back to England, and this was, and then in October of 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, and what Dad was like, Mom was supposed to go ahead, you know what I mean, or Dad was supposed to go ahead and get everything sorted out like an apartment and something. But the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, and those 13 days, they were like, and I was born in December, so they were like, maybe we should not be separated if nuclear war is going to happen. So I wound up being born in the United States.
Huh. That's hard. So you are a full-on American citizen. Mm-hmm. So how many years did you stay in America before you went back, before your family went back to the UK?
We were back and forth all the time.
Okay. So do you have like a large family in the UK?
I have... My mother had one sister.
Okay.
And she had 3 children, my cousins.
Okay. Now, the biggest question I would have now...
No, she had 2 brothers, half-brothers as well.
Okay.
But I don't even know if they had kids. I don't know, you know?
So, being that you were bouncing back and forth, military kids have a problem adjusting or making friends or long-term friends because they're constantly moving around.
It's the same thing.
You country hopping, like how the hell? And when you were the only
It's the
kid?
same thing. No, I have one sister.
Okay, cool. Older or younger?
Younger.
Okay, cool.
She lives in England.
Okay. All right. So, what was it like growing up, constantly moving from country to country?
Well, I don't know, because it was normal. Do you know what I mean? It's normal. So
There is a normalcy in moving around.
I know, because I don't know what the regular normal is. My normal was that we're
in comparison to
we're going
other
again,
people
we're going
around
again,
you.
we're going
Okay, so
again.
like I'm around the same bums for 20 years. I'm not bums, but my
Right.
friends. I'm around the same knucklehead motherfuckers that I've known forever. It's a comfortability. It's a you already know, but then I understand that people that move around, like sometimes it might be harder to build friendships, or
Yeah, I mean, you
might become obsessive compulsive about this one person.
I'm very comfortable being by myself. I, like I was working this weekend. It's like I'm fine by myself. Oh, I don't have to leave the house. Great.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so it's I don't know. Like I say, I don't.
Word. Were you the type of guy that always fit in?
Let me give you an example. Like,
Okay.
but an example of sideways. Like we Thanksgiving in our house. And my father had one brother who lived in like Minnesota. So that was the only family on this continent.
Got you.
So and his parents died
Right.
when I was quite young. So Thanksgiving in our house was the same 4 people.
All of the time.
This is just another day.
Got you.
Right. So it wasn't until I was like 16 or 17 I had a girlfriend, and it was like, hey, come spend Thanksgiving with us, and there was like thousands of them. It was just like, and it was so weird. You're like sitting at this table like this, you know what I mean? Because there's like the table's craned to get some extra leaves in the thing, and you know what I mean? And you're just like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
We didn't even get turkey.
What?
We tried, and then like
They sold out?
It's February, and you're still eating turkey sandwiches. And it's like, fuck
That's the
this.
greatest part
You know.
about it. You just
Right,
be eating,
but
but
not till February. Mom used to get a duck, so it
Okay.
was something special that we hadn't had before. But it's also small enough that 4 people could eat it.
got you.
You know what I mean? Anyway, but that's the type of thing you sort of.
Mom was good with cooking a duck. Was it too greasy? Perfect? A little rubbery?
Mom was a good cook.
Okay,
Mom
cool,
was a
cool,
good
cool.
cook. Yep, yep.
Shout out to Mom.
Yeah.
All right, it's
wherever
always
you are.
important, wherever you are. So, you were introduced to. Oh, before I get to that question, what was the family's music preferences? So, what was your mom and dad listening
Classical.
to? Really? Wow. What were there? Was it more Mozart, Beethoven? Was it big bands? Was it?
Gustav Mahler and
Mm-hmm.
modern classical music
Ooh.
and the old stuff too.
Got you.
Classical music.
Got you. So, how did you get introduced to, I guess, what would be secular, crazy? Well, not secular, because they weren't really into religious music.
yeah,
but how would they not introduce you? How did you get into rock and roll?
Weirdos.
Yeah, I mean, if every day, all day you listening to classical, and you got James Brown out there doing splits and cartwheels, like.
we were living in a cave. With busts of Mozart singing about it. It was like, you
Their
heard
preferences.
music and they were like, oh yes, I like the Beatles. They're quite good, aren't they, Sebastian? Yes. Ooh, you know what I mean? It's like,
So they favored the Beatles at one
well,
point in
I
time.
mean, everybody liked the Beatles, but
Okay.
this is, but
We've got to talk about that too, because I'm still trying to understand
The Beatles?
the universal appeal of the Beatles and why they were so ubiquitously.
yeah,
everywhere they were.
because
They seem to be connected to every component of life of that time period. Like, what did they do? Did they cocaine everybody in the crowds? Were they giving out heroin shots with the CDs or the tapes?
I would agree with you, and they're quite good up to a point, and then after that they're not so good anymore. But
Right.
I am the odd one out on that opinion.
So,
Because after Revolver, it kind of sucks. It's
Okay.
definitely a downhill slide. Just saying. Now, there's a couple good songs. Rain is good. Paperback Writer, that's a good one. After,
fight them in the comment section, bro.
After,
Come at me in the comments, bro.
yeah, it'll light up. I disagree.
They should. They should. I think everybody should be entitled to their opinion, honestly, because it makes the internet not boring, in my
Right,
opinion.
yeah.
And we'll get to his Facebook celebrity in a minute, but like, yeah, you're one of those rare people that I have in my friendship list that every time I see one of your posts, the 200 comments is like, I'm not even going to weigh in. I'm just like, there have been many times where I want to say something and I see the number of comments and I'm out. I'm not even going to touch this because this is not going to go well, period. But all right, so you're in that time period, you're experiencing classical music heavily, but then when does other music start etching in?
Other music. All right, I did this on one of the shows. The first song on one of my radio shows where I did the Music That Fucking Matters series, I did myself first. The first song I can actually, as a child, remember hearing, and I can still see the day, the hallway, you know what I mean, the radio, the window was open, it was nice, it was summer. Simon and Garfunkel's Cecilia.
Nice.
With that, it's got that drum beat going, bop, 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 you know. Yeah, that's the first song I can actually remember, and I must have been 5, 4, you know. So it would have been when it came, and I was, you know, somewhere around there.
Right.
5, 6, maybe. That's the actual, like, I can actually remember the actual song itself, as opposed to hearing music and seeing it on a TV show and, you know, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what was the first... Well, all right, so I always get into this question. What was the first CD you bought with your... excuse me. You predate CDs. So what album, record, vinyl, did you buy with your own money?
The first one was a 45.
Okay.
Which was David Bowie, Major Tom, Ground Control to Major Tom.
Nice.
It was a #1 hit in England in the summer of 1975 or 1976. I can't remember which one. I think it was 75. And so it was on Top of the Pops all the time. And that was the first record I ever bought with my own money.
Right.
The first album I ever bought with my own money was the Beatles' Revolver.
They got that money, man. They got everybody's money, except for mine. But, you know what I mean? Everybody's got to have their thing. So, all right. So, at that point in time I tell people, because it's easier to have a conversation, you bring your own experiences into it, that
I can do that.
Music defined my life in that time period. With not having a lot, and believe me, I wasn't playing on a dirt road or anything. I mean, I was raised in a middle class family, but music was everything. Like, music defined every moment in my life can be defined by, like, you know, this. You know, I had classical, and then there was gospel, and then there was R&B, then there was R. Kelly. That was that whole decade, you know, the 90s. Sorry, people, he was fucking on fire. What do you want me to do? And then everything forward. But it was so important because everything was set to music. All of our family functions were set to music. The car rides are set to music. You know, the girl breaks up with you, it's set to music. You get laid for the first time, it's set to music. So what ends up becoming like the genre that you really kind of drove to the most?
Well, you mean, so here's what happened. You know, right around that age, like 12 or 13, when you start trying to find your own identity. We were in England at the time, and England at the time, this is before punk. They had this shit called glam rock, which Bowie was a part of.
With the big hair and the glowy clothes.
Glowy clothes.
Okay, and they had
big
the shoulders.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Why was that?
I don't know, but it was fucking great.
Wait a minute. So let me ask you this question, because this might answer that question. So in that time period, were space movies like really popular? So they were probably emulating,
exactly.
You know, stuff like that. Okay, cool. Gotcha.
You know, and then you look up close, and it's sort of like, you know, duct tape on the thing, you know.
See, why are you giving away the secrets? You know, man.
No, that's the best part. Anyway, so there was you know, these British bands like Slade. There was Sweet. I never liked the Glitter band. I never liked Gary Glitter. Fortunately for me. A bunch of bands like that, and these bands, you know, it wasn't like I was like finding something hidden. I mean, this was the music that was out there on the radio. This is what you listen to.
Right.
And I absolutely. There's two things like to this day, like outside of punk, that became the most important thing ever. but like my absolute starting point. I mean, I was listening to some today. Is that British glam rock? You know, Mark Bolan, T-Rex, all that stuff, and that really heavy British blues before it turns into heavy metal. So it's like 10 years after. That's my favorite. You know what I mean? I mean, all these bands. You know, I mean, the Stones were part of that, but not. And yes, I'll include them. But there was that whole just like, you know, Rory Gallagher, even though he's Irish, but you know this, you know, amps on fucking 11,
Right.
cranked up, blues-based music. It was fun. I just love that shit. Love that shit. You know, minor pentatonic scale, cranked up through a Marshall. Yes. Anyway, so that and glam rock. Then, in 1976, we moved to the United States. We moved to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck me, I was like, the state of music here just fucking sucked.
Really?
You turn the radio on, it was terrible. It was like, because none of that stuff was big over here.
Right, of course.
It was all like James Taylor, Eddie Money, Aerosmith. You know, it was like.
Don't talk about Aerosmith.
Zeppelin, Leonard Skinner. It was like fucking wank compared to this. And you know, and then you're just like, you know, Ted Nugent. And you're like,
We're a different type of people over here.
yeah, exactly. It was very dysfunctional. Now, fortunately, in school, I met some friends and who are, because of social media, are still friends with me today, and showed me the other. You know what I mean? Because there was, you know, the stuff I was listening to over there was also listened to over here as more of an underground level.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Roxy Music might have a #1 hit over there. Over here,
It might have been in the top 50.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're floating around here, and they'll lead you to Frank Zappa and all this other shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? The other good thing was through living in Baltimore, then I was able to get into stuff like James Brown, you know what I mean, and that whole Southern Soul, you know, the Atlantic and Stax Records, you know what I mean, Wilson Pickett, and all that shit. Again, through those guys, it was like, oh, okay. And then punk hit.
We're going to get into that in just a second. But do you feel like the development of rock and roll in America went sour because of our money-hungry kind of, okay, this is what sells, this is what makes girls scream, let's focus on that versus creating timeless records? Because I'm trying to understand what makes American music so different from UK music, and even your emotional disconnection from that stuff when you first settled back down into America. Could it have been the drive to sell records versus?
Well, there's definitely no, because they were trying to sell records over there, but I think
No. All right, because America was built squarely on, nigga, we want to make money. This is what America squarely.
no, yeah.
The empire was built on bougie principles
we want to steal your
classy.
Right.
We want to make money, but let's not look like we're making money. That's ignorant.
Right.
Let's
we'll just take it from you.
right. Let's create the greatest art piece.
And we've given you a tea set.
Right.
No, there is a definite difference, and
He said, "We'll give you a tea set."
after we've stolen the tea in the first place,
And we've enslaved you to make the tea set.
exactly.
You know,
Well,
okay,
somebody,
cool.
you know, not doing it ourselves.
Yeah, we got other shit to do. We got other countries to take over. Go ahead.
Well, we'll give them back when we're finished.
Once we've taken everything we need. No more resources, but here,
Right,
you know, you
yeah,
can have it.
And then we'll complain if you come over.
Holy.
Money, no, don't.
Oh.
No, you stay over there.
He said, "Follow
We
the-
have the money.
Yeah, don't worry about the money. No, we created the money. Like, I mean,
Anyway, yeah.
yeah.
No, because there is a very difference, and it is very something. You know, and Frank Zappa said something about this. How when he was coming up, like these old guys that gave them the money and the go-ahead to do what they were doing. They didn't have a fucking clue what he was doing.
Right.
But they let him do it.
Right.
And then he said when his generation, which we can start on the fucking baby boomers anytime you want. But when they got into the control, all of a sudden it was like, well, let's keep it safe. Oh, no, this is a commodity. What do the ratings say? No chances. None. Don't take chances. What do the ratings say? We have to keep it safe.
Right.
And there was a definite changeover.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you can see it in
But then that also happened in the UK as well.
yeah, which I mean,
So,
this is
I
why
mean,
you had a punk thing in the
first place, and that's why I took off like wildfire.
Right.
But I feel like before that time period happened, America shot itself in the foot early because of everything starting with money, everything starting with does it sell or does it not sell versus do I enjoy it?
Is it a valid product?
Is it a valid product?
Yeah.
Hey, it doesn't sell 1 million out the gate, but yo, this is dope. People like it. You know what I mean? Like, let's let this naturally incubate. America is not a naturally incubate type of country. We're not.
No, it's like why should I try and sell you this new artist when I can repackage this old artist
Right.
that you already like?
Right, exactly. Like, right. Yeah, these guys are black. We don't like this. We'll take the same exact song and we'll have some white guys do it, and it works. Which, instead of, letting these guys come out and bubble on their own.
It won't be as good, but you won't know that.
Right, exactly. Which, I'm not mad at them, because if I was white in that time period with money, and I would get some white guys and I'd redo the music. I ain't shit. I'm sorry.
White guys that didn't know.
I mean, hey, there was tons of white people. There was some black people that didn't know.
Yeah, no, I mean that is the whole basis of Motown was to create black music that white people would buy.
Facts.
Where interesting, like Stax, which was owned by the white guy and his sister, was created to like make black
music
for black
accessible,
people,
right?
And whoever likes it. Fuck it. Just get their fucking records out.
Right.
And the band was all, actually both bands were integrated. But it's just,
Facts.
it's an interesting, the Berry Gordy was very much like, everybody went to finishing school, everybody learned how to comport themselves.
Of course.
In an acceptable manner.
Of course.
And, you know what I mean? That this was all part of the business thing.
Because of the fact that you want the least amount of fiction as possible when you're trying to break through these lines.
And make money.
Once again, the American theme
reigns
reigns supreme.
You can look. It's a straight line. This is why.
Right.
I mean, our politics and stuff is so corrupt. I mean, other countries don't do this shit.
It's not
You know
corrupt.
what
It's the way we do things. We'll get into that later. We'll get into that later. All right, let's go back. So
America.
it is fucking America, and I live here and I love it. So anyway, you pick up an instrument at what time? When is that? Come on,
that was because of punk.
Okay.
Because I loved all
in
that
America,
stuff.
in Baltimore.
I loved all that stuff from before, but it didn't inspire me to play it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It inspired me to like sit down and listen to it.
Right.
But it took punk to go, holy fuck, I can do this. I want in.
Okay, so what about punk made you go, yeah, this is it?
Well, and again, it was like I noticed that like my record collection, and it's funny when you think about it now because my records were they seemed out of date in the fact that they were all 5 to 10 years old.
Gotcha.
Back then seemed, oh my God, it's like another planet. If this is 1977, 1967 is a huge difference. Whereas if you go 2019 to 2009, not so much.
It's not so much.
You know what I mean? It's just the feel of the...
Even though there's like 18 times thousands amount of music being released between those times.
Exactly.
Like in this time, there's so much music that's released in that 10-year span versus back then. You would think the 10 years of music, the music and the albums would still have the same value. But they don't.
They don't.
I don't... No, that's something I don't understand why, but we can get into that another time.
Equally great music been released from 19 to 09. There's some fucking amazing music out there.
Right.
It's not, again, it's not getting the push because the fucking baby boomers won't get out of the fucking way and let anybody else do something. which they did the same thing with punk. They hated it. Oh, I was at Woodstock, and you guys are just foolish. Fuck you.
Okay, so define for those whom have no idea what punk. Okay, define rock and roll, and then define what punk is as the subgenre under rock and roll.
How long do you have?
We have an infinite amount of time. Don't worry about it. I've plugged the camera into the wall. I mean, we don't need to get into a long. I mean,
we started Jackie Brenston in 1954.
Let's do that.
Well, Jackie Brenston, 1954, Rocket 88.
Okay.
Ike Turner playing piano.
Okay.
Is supposed to be considered the first rock and roll song. Rock and roll is basically, black R&B music, amped up, turned a little, given a little tweak from jump blues and various other idioms that were around at the time.
Okay.
And then it sort of morphed, you've got different raps and different this style and that stuff and dance hall and, you know what I mean?
Okay, so we take R&B, we make it more aggressive.
Yes.
Do we increase the BPM, but we simplify the drum pattern? Or it could, well, no, because I've heard some pretty complex drum pattern in the rock and roll.
I mean,
And I've always felt like the essentials of a rock song is in the lead guitar, the coordination of the bass rhythm, and I always felt like it was a simplified, more simple drum patterning for that, but it was aggressive. It was most of the time on a one. Yeah, it's not an and. It's a one.
It's not a jazz drum.
Yeah. And then
4 on the floor or something.
Right. So then the writing becomes an element because there is a clear separation. So, all right, and I'm gonna say this. So you had the black musicians that created the rock, but then there was a clear breakaway in writing style over time. Now, when do you feel like the more modern, when I mean modern, late 70s, early 80s rock that became its distinct, completely different?
Before that, so what happened is
because when did it completely break from black culture? When did there was a point where there was like a complete break in how it's created?
That was the well, it's weird, no, because I know what you're saying. Because what happened is, you had your black musicians,
right,
and then because musicians are musicians, they did borrow from each other,
of course,
and all this, and it's not always theft.
Right.
Now, the management, they were stealing motherfuckers. Musicians, I'm not talking about Elvis because we'll talk about it. Never been a fan.
But I don't have a beef with Elvis. And I don't even think black people gave a fuck because there were so many people doing the same thing. It's like to get mad at the biggest guy of the genre of the time period.
He was the biggest guy, and apparently he stole this whole shtick from Wynonie Harris. And
yes,
whatever.
and the gay guy that we all love. There you go, Little Richard and James Brown and But that's what you do when you want to become the biggest. And when you have the carte blanche and the white privilege, you got to do what you got to do. Like,
it's about,
am I making it right? No, I'm just saying, let's be real. If you had the opportunity in the whiteness, you going for it. I'm going to crank my leg. I'm going to get all the vagina I can and take all the drugs, my morning uppers, my afternoon downers. Nigga. Graceland is here to stay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. It's not an invalid point. I've never been a fan of his. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is, so you had this, it started off the bat, white guys came in and, some did it better than others, some were more honest in their borrowing and,
right.
like anything else, and it spread out. And then and then it went to England.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they say that a lot of it had to do with Liverpool. Liverpool was a port city.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody knew somebody who worked on a ship or something. So they were able to get the records.
Got you.
Because they didn't have an internet.
Got you.
Because of that. Now, so all this music is being disseminated, as it has been for generations now, because you've had jazz. Remember,
of course.
Don't forget that had the
blues,
huge influence
that
jazz had when it hit Europe in the First World War.
Mm-hmm.
and people had never heard this music, and it was like, quoi? You know what I mean? I mean, didn't exist. And then when the swing bands, but all of a sudden the American GIs were in England, finally. Anyway, so there had been this dissemination of American music.
Once Americans started becoming based in London, then there's the need for, we need a place to entertain these guys. And then we need their type of music. And then comes holy God. And then the locals are there, and then it's like, okay.
The locals are there, girls go there, everybody's dancing, they're having a good time. So the shit gets disseminated. Now, at the same time, and there were different disseminations. So you had your rock and roll, the Beatles very much. And then in Britain you had this thing called skiffle, which was basically...
I've never heard of skiffle.
Yeah, skiffle. It's a really English thing, and it's basically folk music.
Really?
American folk music and blues. And it was all done with like like a bass with a broomstick
upright
on a bucket.
Snap! A broomstick on a bucket. You got to do what you got to do.
I didn't have any money. They were flattened from the war. I mean, it's like
Got you. Completely understand.
Britain had food rationing until 1954.
Wow.
So my mother, for example, would have been 1954. She would have been 24, 25 before she could go to a store and buy whatever she wants food-wise.
Wow.
Right?
And that's if she had a job and some money.
And they won. You know what I mean? It was like, but anyway, so you had these different disseminations that people fell in love with, as was happening here. You know what I mean? And then you also had these guys like the Rolling Stones and these kids, and they're teenagers. And all of a sudden they discovered like American blues, right? Which is like, way the fuck over here. And it's also what nobody knew. It's also out of date.
Right.
So by the time these guys are listening to this shit in the 60s,
we've moved on.
Black people in America, they're not listening to that shit anymore. Why would I listen to Muddy Waters when I can listen to James Brown now?
Fact.
So when the Rolling Stones come over and they go to Chess Records, and the black guy painting the studio is Muddy Waters because his records aren't selling. He's not selling because there's a conspiracy. They're not selling because everybody wanted to listen to James Brown.
Right.
Music had evolved. You know what I mean? It's like, So anyway, but they picked up on and started emulating. And it's like, if you listen, like the first 4 or 5 Rolling Stones albums are all covers. So you know what I mean? Either old blues songs or Little Richard type stuff.
Right.
So just
they're getting acclimated and trying to find their way in the market space, and
then as the markets got bigger, then all the equipment got bigger, and then you're able to do more with what you have because if you ever see the pictures of the Beatles playing, their amplifiers are about this big, you know what I mean, and then. 5 years later,
it's like stacks of this
Jimi Hendrix, and it's all like
walls of,
which changes the sound that you're producing, so then you control the sound that you produce.
Gotcha.
But also, and this leads to punk. With what happened was, everybody started off over here playing 3-minute songs. By the end of the 60s, they've expanded that, which is a natural thing to do, and certainly goes with the, with the live experience, because you got to fill that time, especially in like juke joints and stuff. It's like, you're going to play till 6 o'clock in the morning. Just last, we can do a 15-minute song, no problem. You know what I mean? So then you started getting that.
Yo, that's so freaking deep. Don't rush past that, because there were no DJs at the time. So the 15-minute songs, the 10-minute songs, you're trying to fill time for a slot. Never fucking thought about that.
I didn't either. You know how it's like, look, Fela Kuti. Every fucking song he has is like 15 minutes long. I love the guy, but Jesus Christ. You put one song and you're like... When I found out, African bands play 4-hour sets.
Holy... Who's standing around for a 4-hour set? Like, we're conditioned to not.
Right.
Like, once again, that American, like, we are so programmed. Wow, that is insane.
Think about that.
A 4-hour set.
Also, tangent.
Right.
When we were growing up, right, movies were an hour and a half long.
Correct.
And you could not make them longer.
Correct.
Oh my God, we saw Dust Boat last night. It was 2 hours long. Now, every movie is like 3.5 hours long. This is not an unusual thing. So things have changed, you know.
Correct. Correct.
Anyway, so Fela Kuti plays 15-minute songs because he's giving you the edited radio version, right? Because when you go play live, and apparently, like, people who played in African bands have told me, it's like, it's not unusual. It's like, you know when I need a beer, so the bass player will put his guitar down and go get a beer, and everybody can keep playing, you know what I mean, or the guitar player, so that you can rest, you know what I mean? Jesus, sweats in my eyes, or, you know, all that shit.
Right.
Because you're playing for 4 hours. Anyway, so back to the music. You know, so by the end of the 60s, they're playing, you know, Jimi Hendrix for 15 fucking minutes, you know. and then of course the natural thing is to just start doing more with.
See, I think it's different because when you're talking about Jimi Hendrix time period, we're talking about hallucinogen drugs. We're talking about
exactly.
So you're high off your ass. So like he's going, you're thinking it's 2 seconds. It's really 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's,
you're having a transcendent experience.
Right. Which okay, if that's what you want to do. Anyway, meanwhile, and of course with that comes a natural inclination to want to expand from just your 1-4-5 progressions, you know, with a relative minor, you know, or jump to 2 to the 5 or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
So they started, and now you've got the time to do it. So you started expanding and these time signatures and all this shit and 20-minute songs, and boy, does it get boring after a while. Meanwhile,
I don't think I could survive a 20-minute song.
right? And then
Sorry.
there's these. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of kids, you know, in London, New York, all over the place, because it all happened concurrently. Punk all happened concurrently in different places. There's fucking Brisbane, Australia. There's a
Really? It all happened concurrently. It all concurrently.
Nobody invented.
You have a soft voice, sir. We're gonna bring that closer.
I have a soft voice.
Yes, you do. But go ahead. All right. So
no.
it just so happened that all these people in these different places all started developing the same style of music at the same time.
Yes.
That's the whole definition of concurrent. But
that's why I said it.
Highly unlikely.
All right, I will
Okay,
have to
go
lead
ahead.
you. I will sit you down and lead you because
You're
the
sitting-
Saints were in Brisbane, Australia, and came out and started in like 1973, 74, put their album out in 1976, the same time as the Sex Pistols in London, with no internet. So it was just it's a natural way to play music. You know, just be angry and play music. Sing about what you know. Well, by the time the 70s came around, things were kind of shitty. So that's where that, you know, and then everybody was like, you know what, fuck this 15 minutes so low. Let's go back to fucking 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's everything I needed to say. And of course, you know, it got even shorter than that. By the time you get to like 1980, when the Circle Jerks album came out, you had 30 songs and the album was 15 minutes long. I'm not making it up, and it's a great fucking record. It's one of the best punk records of all time.
So you trying to tell me punk music saved the music industry? Because I don't think I'd be able to live through an industry where every song is 15 to 20 minutes long.
No, but it didn't. Well, no, and again, America made the decision to ignore it.
Punk rock.
Punk rock.
Why?
Britain had no choice because all of a sudden, like overnight, and Britain is much more fashion conscious, and it's a much smaller country, and they also had a music media that was weekly, and so information gets disseminated much more quickly. Overnight, these bands played. People went, holy shit, I can do this. I want to do this, and started bang, and changed everything. And the record companies were scrambling to play catch up. And then what it did was it was like this huge zit that exploded, and just everything poured out. Everything that, you know, there's a cutoff. You know, there's everything before this point. There's everything after this point, and this is, and you know, it's there.
Okay.
America would not. Again, America, everything's based on money. We're not going to take any chances on this new shit. Why don't you have another Led Zeppelin album? And that's what they did. They mocked it. They very much like they did with hip hop
In the beginning, you're correct.
in the beginning. Interestingly, the hip hop in New York and the New York punk scene in the beginning were very close.
Right.
Like
they had a
everybody
very
knew each
close
other.
marriage.
They were going to the same,
Venues.
It's like,
Right.
And I think we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's
And they
a
even talked
it's
about
a
it
shame
in.
that Run DMC did that song with fucking Aerosmith instead of a New York punk band. I understand why you did it because you got to make money, but at the same time, it was more true to the
Soul of
feeling
what-
of
right.
the soul of the time that it should have been, a Kraut or Agnostic Front or somebody from New York, Murphy's Law, these bands that were going to the hip hop shows long before anybody ever knew about it.
Now, what about for those people that said, "Hey, Run DMC needed to do that because it opened up doors for not only hip hop but for punk as well"?
I'm saying.
You talking about just for the purity's sake?
For the purity's sake.
I
which
got
is
you.
something that punk's very involved in.
Why are punk rockers so obsessed with purity and
Because the whole thing
authenticity?
Because the whole thing started off because you had Led Zeppelin and The Who and all these bands that were doing those 15-minute songs
Who?
that had their chance and were basically putting out really boring albums and were full of shit. And you'd go to these shows and you'd sort of squint to see the band, and you were miles away in these big arenas, and what the fuck fun is that? Or you're in a small club, the band is over there where the sofa is, you know what I mean, and everybody's jamming and crowded, and it's loud as fuck, and it's fun. I mean, I'll take this any day.
Okay.
To this day, I do not like playing a large, big stages. I don't like them. I'm a club player. I will always be a club player.
I didn't know they made people like you.
Well, fortunately, they
I'm just saying,
never get anything
like,
done.
do I like the small club crowd? Depends. Actually, I don't like any crowds, but I mean, if I had to choose, I don't know. I've been to some large shows with the big stages, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But I've also seen some amazing things from the small.
I hate big crowd. Anything bigger than
You don't like it when they bring the Lamborghini and it flies over the crowd by wires and it looks like it's flying? You didn't like that? You don't like it when they have a whole roller coaster on stage and no. Okay, doesn't do anything for you.
unless it was Parliament in 1978 where the mothership.
That's where the mothership
down.
comes down. That's different. That's we will
That
all
I would-
agree
right.
that's in the time period because
Yeah.
everybody was high as hell and they really thought it was an alien ship coming down.
Right.
Oh my God! Like, have you seen? Well, you've seen it. Soaked in sweat. They're wearing 4 layers of clothes, thick as hell. It's probably 90 degrees on stage.
The guy
They're
that
playing
chose the diapers, he was the smart one. He's like, fuck
his
this
sweater,
shit.
he's butt naked, and he's not sweating as much as everybody
No.
else. But these guys are playing, and
He's
there's
got a
buckets.
fur coat and a wig.
Oh my God! To be in that band, I don't think I could do it.
Did you hear the story where they were doing an album and for some reason they decided they were not going to bathe until the album was
Yes,
finished?
I was watching a documentary, and he was
And
telling
people
all
were
type
like,
of crazy shit, like
Please finish this album.
the smell
the
and the.
engineers are like,
Speaking of crazy ideas, so you decide at some point to pick up an instrument. Now, did you decide in the beginning to go, I want to be a singer, or was it, hey, I want to be?
No, the band that I wound up. I had been in a band here in Baltimore, for a show in somebody's living room and a couple practices, and then, I moved to DC. Interestingly, Baltimore had some really good punk bands in the late 70s. And they all broke up in like 1980. All of them, almost all of them. And then all of a sudden there was like almost like no scene, no gigs, and nowhere, and in that time period, I'd also been going to DC to go see shows. So, and I'd met a bunch of kids down there, so I just moved down there.
Gotcha.
After high school, I was just like, fuck this. There's nothing happening here. I'm out.
So What instrument did you pick up?
I started playing bass, and then I became a singer. And I became a singer because that was the position that the guys who had this band, the singer that they had quit.
Gotcha.
And they were starting this band, and he'd done like 2 rehearsals.
Gotcha. So did you have the head of hair at the time and the look for the lead singer? Because it's not just about the vocals with the rock band. You gotta have the attitude, the leather jacket.
I had plenty of attitude.
Did you have the leather jacket?
I had a leather jacket. Yes.
And you had the head of hair.
I had a leather jacket that had been stolen from a hippie, so I got extra points from that.
What the fuck? How do you get extra points for beating up a hippie? Somebody that's high on weed.
Stealing.
Oh, okay.
Stealing their jacket, and I didn't. It wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
Someone stole it and then gave me the jacket.
Couldn't have been you.
No.
Some ruffian gifted it to you. So anyway, all right. So you become the lead singer. Lead singer, and you're playing bass. How long were you playing bass?
No. I mean, this is before. I don't know. 2 weeks or something. I didn't play in the band. I didn't. It was just. Where did you go? Well, I would start playing. Interestingly, I've been playing bass at home lately. I've just been having a sort of bass romance with bass lately, and I've just been
experimenting.
Loving that. E minor
sounds like a new album. Sounds like a new album is a brewing. That's what it sounds
Maybe.
like. But I've just been fucking around with bass. Sure, you have. Sounds like the pre-production to a recording process to me. But anyway, so you start singing. So you lay the bass down for some time. So all right, come on, give me the details. I don't need the long version, but the shorter. So that band does good.
We started a band,
and the band was called
Iron Cross.
Okay. So this is the formation of the legendary Iron Cross.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
So this is 1980, and
I am 1 year old at this time. Go ahead.
I am not. So we played shows, we did our thing. We were included on this compilation that became for DC, DC punk compilation. That became famous, and then the whole DC scene exploded. Doing really well, and became famous. I don't know.
So
and then we just sort of played gigs for a while, and then we didn't. And then I went back to England, played music in England. Then I came back here. You'll notice a pattern in my life.
Pretty much.
And then was still playing music, and then I did this other thing, the Royal Americans thing, and then I wrote the books, and then did the Iron Cross thing again. Until a few years ago.
This guy hates talking about himself. This is the most ridiculous shit ever.
The short version, you said.
I meant like, don't give me every day, like on the day and then the next day. I meant like, Okay, so the compilation takes off.
Yeah.
Does the phone start ringing and people go,
we wouldn't have known.
We want to give you a deal.
We wouldn't have known. No, because it wasn't any of that.
Okay.
That we were.
So you were independent.
Everybody was independent because it was this underground, totally underground, mainstream music and media was not paying attention. We were totally left to do our own thing, which turned out rather well in the end. Because everybody was just like, punk rockers, those assholes.
So how in the world do you end up touring the world if nobody knows about you?
Because it was all. You know how the hip hop artists are selling shit out of the cars, and people in the area know about the artist long before anybody. Same thing.
Gotcha.
Underground. I'm sure it still exists.
See, but there's still coverage. Like for hip hop.
Yeah.
I might have found out about somebody from Houston because there's a hip hop magazine that covers.
Well, there were punk magazines.
Okay,
too.
There you go. And they were covering you.
Yeah,
you got an article or two.
But they were small little magazines. It wasn't Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone was like Rolling Stone. I think they put the Sex Pistols on the cover once, and it was the worst selling issue ever. So we're not going to cover that shit. You know what I mean? So they just like totally bypassed it because they
Wow.
were a shitty magazine anyway. Fuck
Okay.
that.
So at what point did y'all decide we're gonna be an oi band?
We didn't. That was other people said we were an oi band. We never did. We were just a punk band. You know what I mean? Labels came later.
So what makes a oi band an oi
Yeah,
band?
I'm still trying to figure that out. Okay,
Okay.
so we got lumped into
Besides saying oi, oi, oi a lot.
Right. We had the shaved heads, or some of us did.
That's
We
a
had
punk
shaved
thing.
heads.
That's all punks.
Right, but it was also part of the other thing. And then
He said part of the other thing.
so we got and we and DC at the time everybody's playing really fast.
Got you. Which is
And we didn't,
Okay.
mostly because we weren't that good musicians. So I'm not making this up. The guitar player, the drummer was 14 years old. The guitar
Wait
player
a minute, the drummer was 14?
was 14. Yeah,
Oh my God, and you're like 50 at this point. No, I'm just playing. You're like, no, you're like 20. What are you, like 23, 24?
No, I was like 18.
Okay, so you're 18 and he's
we're all-
14. Y'all all relatively the
Right,
same
and
age.
The guitar player was
Yeah,
14,
you all sucked, period. I mean,
Yeah,
you're just
right.
young kids,
Yeah.
but you're playing hard, and you've got the hair, and you've
Right.
got the jacket that you got from the hippie.
Right.
So it's working.
That's
You know
all
what I'm
right.
saying? Like, yeah, okay.
But this is a teenage thing. This
Right.
is not like it is now with sort of middle-aged men and sort of. It was like kids. Yeah, fuck you, man. We're gonna do what I want. Yeah.
I love that.
So, that's that. So of course you do dumb shit. You
Right.
know,
And word gets out.
And
So
it
you
works.
get
So
articles. And then there was an indie label at some point that picked you up and distributed.
No, we did it ourselves.
Wow.
There wasn't, and again, that was part of the whole punk thing. It was like, fuck, why do I need to go talk to fucking CBS? I just do it myself. Because, how many units are you going to move there? Har, har, har. It was like, I don't know, press 1,000.
You can see what happens.
Yeah, walk, and sell it at the shows. We walk around with the box. Like, you want my, it wasn't a CD. You want to buy our sandwich? You know what I mean? And that's how it was done. That's
the world you lived in.
But there was an underground. There was a network. You know what I mean? So in this city, you want to know this city, and then gradually, everybody, because it was all happening everywhere. And then, one of the bands went on tour, and they came back, and they had a list of phone numbers, so everybody passed that around. These are the clubs, because it was hard to find a club that'll put you on, you know what I mean? And then, people did things like renting VFW halls, or renting, churches, or finding a space, you know what I mean? We've played in people's basements, we played in people's garages, we're just playing. And again, we're all kids, we'll do it all by ourselves. You know what I mean?
I love this.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And then and eventually it got so then it's like, hey, do you want to play this show in Philly? So you go up to Philly and you meet the guys there, and they're really cool. You know what I mean? So then you become friends, and then hey, we got this gig. You want to come down and play with us? You know what I mean? Yeah, okay. And then so now you've got a network. And then hey, New York and Boston and Detroit and this, and then it all snaps together, you know what I mean? And then magazines were fanzines, they were called at the time, like just a kid on the mimeograph. They had Xerox by that time, but you know what I mean? But some of them were mimeographed. Like, I saw this band last night, they were great. I saw this band last night, they sucked.
And they do it, and then they print it up, and then they pass them out.
Print it out and sell it for 50 cents or something, and this is what's happening, and this is good, and hey, have you heard this new record here? All that shit, and it all interconnected without anybody knowing really what was. And then you get this sort of, hi, this is Diane Dorfdorf, and we're going to interview the punkers, hardy har har har. You know what I mean? You get these stupid things on these TV shows that completely miss the point, and they haven't got a clue. And
they just so happen to stumble into a venue one night, and it's got 200 people in there, and they're like,
there's
something going on.
Yeah, oh my God, the kids, they're crazy.
And then what makes it even crazier, there's 200 kids, they all have their hair shaved.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, they're shaving their head.
Leather jackets.
Oh my God, they wear boots and they jump around off the stage.
Did you guys wear leather
It's
pants?
Insane.
Did you wear leather pants?
That was later.
Okay. This is crazy.
But you know what I mean? It was just kids hanging out.
But you got what you're describing is what this time period is craving to develop more of. The independent network where people can build a fan base. Because what you were doing is you were paying your dues and you were building a fan base. You were finding people one by one. You were building a network. You were building a business network, but you were also building a fan base. And out of that, you were getting experience as musicians. You were gaining your confidence. You were seeing the world. And I'm like, yo, you were doing the essentials necessary to be a successful business. You know what I mean? You may not have thought about it like that. You were just thinking about it like, yo, we were just...
Had I thought about it, I mean, looking back, it's like, boy, you made some dumb mistakes there. You could have made not a lot of money, but, you know.
No, you could have made way more of a living.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Done better than we had to. But, you know, we weren't really that interested. We were just doing what we were doing.
Right.
We didn't know. And again, there was a time when nobody was making any money. Even if they were famous in the punk rock stratosphere, they certainly weren't famous anywhere else. We were still playing the big bands, the top. We're still playing the same clubs that we were playing.
Right.
It was all on one level.
So, who were the top bands, punk bands of the time?
I mean, there were.
Come on, there has to be a god. There has to be a god of them all. Okay, Black Flag. I know them.
Subs.
Never heard of them.
Clash.
I heard of the Clash.
Okay. There's more Buzzcocks.
Shout out to Buzz Cox for coming out and having the name Buzz Cox. Go ahead. I'm just saying. That's a confident motherfucker. You came out and you called yourself Buzz Cox.
Anyway, so there was a ton of these bands.
Right.
And like I say, you know, and through the nature of punk, like we played the same clubs. So when you opened for this band, you met them.
Right.
Everybody's playing small clubs, so if you go to the show, you can meet these guys. And that was the other thing about punk, was to bring it back from, like, you know, not the limousines and the champagne, but just the, you know, the guy at the bar is in the band. And he'll just, you know, hey, man, I'm just going to step outside for a minute and go walk around, you know, outside hanging with everybody else. And that's how it was.
Right.
As opposed to the other where it's like, you know, step back, Mr. Gray is coming through. You know what I mean? That type of sort of rock star.
They didn't have
bullshit.
the limousine. They had the Winnebago.
Right. But, yeah, there's stories about that. But, you know, they're a bad idea.
Winnebagos?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to know. I got to know. Kick it out. Because I'm actually thinking about, I'm thinking about detaching from the apartment and going Winnebago style.
That's a different thing. But if you're talking about touring in a band, everybody I know who's actually done it, I haven't. But everybody I know who's done it in a band in the United States says it's a bad idea. One, trying to find somewhere to park.
Okay. Making sense. Go ahead.
Two, your gas is really expensive. You go through a lot more gas. And three, and this really, if you're touring the United States, once you cross the Mississippi, the distances are fucking nuts. And you're restricted on your speed in a Winnebago. So what was an 8-hour drive is now a 12-hour drive.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So everybody says it's a really bad idea. You know, you need to go to.
It's always the small details,
yeah, exactly.
man.
I mean,
that is a small detail. Thank you for the education.
Like, you know, but if you're just talking about like detaching and living somewhere, that's a separate.
That's different. That's different. You know? But touring the country.
Remember, the more gas you're spending,
the less money you're making. Because it's coming out of you what you're making off stage.
I remember when was it? When was it? Like 2000. Was it 6 or 7 when the gas prices shot up to like $3 a gallon? And everybody was like, "Holy fucking shit!" And it was back then $3, so it's more like $6 or $7 now. We were gigging a lot and driving to a gig, and we were in that milieu where you're going to the gigs, you're making some money, but you're not.
Big band money.
You're
like in the middle.
We're in the middle, so we really noticed the cost. Because like if you're below that, you're not making any money anyway. And if you're above us, you can absorb it. And we were like, Jesus fucking Christ, that was an extra $100. You know what I mean? When, you know what I mean, 100 and divide that by 4. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or something's like, holy shit. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So it's all that stuff is very noticeable. And again, you say you'll learn this shit as you go along.
So, all right. So you have no idea how much knowledge you have. This random stuff. There's so many like that. I'm learning a lot.
Well, there's a whole bunch of.
So,
Can I tell you?
Go ahead. Go
my
ahead.
Punk rock sneaky. You know,
Please.
we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So there was a whole list of, like I say, of clubs, and it became contacts in different cities.
Right.
How do you get in touch with them?
You'd have somebody call and act like they're like a manager or a label.
No. But no, because you could just call, hey, it's Sab from Iron Cross in DC. We're and everybody knows everybody
Gotcha.
by name, by I know your band. Yeah.
You got to call long distance though, because you got to pay extra for it. Yeah, because this is the time period. There's before cell phones and free everything.
You know how they used to have this. They used to have this thing called credit card phone numbers for businesses, where you could make these long distance calls, and you would punch in a code or with a phone number, and it would charge to the businesses credit card.
Credit card, right?
Now, if you can get a hold of one of those, you can make free calls. So,
this was big for the kids who are under a certain age. Calling long distance used to be a motherfucker. Like I would have to, if I had to call a cousin in DC or Philly or whatever, I would have to ask my mom, and then most of the time she would have long distance blocked, so we would have to call collect and then have them accept the charges. Oh God! Or we had to get a phone card.
But you're also looking at if you're going for a month, right, a tour all around the United States, national tour. So you're looking a month to 6 weeks. That's 30 to 42 dates. That's 30 to 42 clubs you have to call more than once.
Wow.
And
you are so right.
You've got a timeline to do it in, because you're not walking around with a phone.
They're only in there for a certain time. Oh my God! Time is so changed. Time is so changed.
Places didn't even have fucking answering machines yet.
Right.
Answering machines were still new. So you're talking about a lot of calls. A lot of calls. I mean, it still is a lot of calls, but now you have email.
Right. You got a lot more ways to connect. That's completely different.
Right. So what happened was people started getting hold of these credit card numbers. I used to work as a bicycle courier.
Okay.
And I would go in and out of these law firms, dropping off packages and shit. Well, the secretaries would be there, and sometimes they'd have their shit open, and you with a credit card number. Not of the
right. It'll be the number. Right.
Have a good one. See you later. And you'd walk out, and then you go and try it. But the trick was, you could not do it from your house.
Right, because they could track it.
They could trace it, which certain California punk band that was staying at our house. But anyway, so yeah, they used the phone and the credit card number. You walk over to the 7-Eleven, because we used to have like payphones back then.
Right.
So then these tours were actually booked through standing. So you're standing, outside in a phone booth. You know what I mean? Punching in this fake number, and they were only good for they could go at any moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they were nobody ever tried to sell them, but everybody traded them. Hey man, I got a number. Hey, you got a number? I got a number. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you would use it up as quick as you could, because
because they'd be done figured out something's going
tomorrow
on.
It might be gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you're fucked. You know what I mean? Because nobody could afford
a long distance call. To get a whole pocket full of quarters.
You want to make it even funnier? In England at the time, to call international, you had to book your call. You had to call the operator.
You had to set an appointment.
You had to set an appointment
to do a long distance phone call.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, but that's some bullshit.
I should like to call the United States.
between
the hours of, and then you had to pick your phone up and dial in a code. The operator said, "Yes, I've booked my call," and then they would patch you through and it'd go through the cables underneath the ocean and shit.
They don't talk about that in the movies.
And that was in the fucking 80s. You know what I mean? Wow. When I was over in 83, I had to call
That's
my
insane.
mom for something. I had to like book
Thank
the
you for
call.
this, yo. Yo, this is such a. I don't know. I think that's so heavy. Just to think about how things, because I still tell young people, like, I remember, meeting a girl and I said, there was no cell phone. So if you want to get a phone number, you had to get your pencil and your pad.
Yeah.
You had to get a phone number.
Or she'd give it to you and you're like, I don't have anything to write it on. Oh my God. Oh my
And
God.
she write it on your hand and then you sweat it out or whatever. Yeah. But then even if you made it home, you have to call her. It's not her number. It's the
her
house number. It's the house number. So when somebody's gonna answer the phone, and you've gotta, hey,
you gotta jump through those hoops.
Hope that the dad don't answer the phone. Like, you know what I mean? You hope you get like a sister or a brother or the mom, because the mom is not gonna be as much of a dick. Yeah. So I mean, like, and then you've got. It's just a thing, man. Like, so anyway, I don't want to interrupt you.
The worst part is, like, the phone ringing. Yeah, hi, is so-and-so there? No, and you're like, okay.
That's the end of that. It just destroyed your whole life. All right, so tell me about the band's creative process when you guys are getting together to create songs.
Well, it was. I'll tell you a funny one.
Oh yeah, I'm all about the funny ones.
No, I mean usually it was somebody would have an idea, like the guitar part goes you know what I mean? And then you sort of like, and then I'd sort of like have pad of paper because I was a poet and sensitive and could write the pain of the world. And I would write some bullshit down. So live for now. Don't tell me about tomorrow. Live for now. Kids day, kids tomorrow. Okay, got it. You know what I mean? And that was it.
This doesn't remind me of Bohemian Rhapsody at all. Shout out to that shitty movie. But anyway,
shitty band too.
Anyway,
so yeah, that was basically it. But
come at me, bro. Come at me in the comment section.
Here's the so we were practicing in this basement, and I'd moved into this group home with that became the group home, became the location of Discord Records. It was
right.
Discord House is what it became called. It was a group house. There were like 5 of us. We were all like 18, 19. And, young guys living in a house, so you can imagine how hygienic and fun that was.
Stanky.
Yeah, with a dog as well.
Super stanky.
Yeah. And just chaotic. But we could practice in the basement. And like loads of bands did. We even had, and the bands would come over to practice. Can we use your practice? We got a gig come over. Sure, yeah, go ahead. And, and it was the house is always rattling, fucking shit. Anyway, so we're down there. It's our night, or whatever, and fuck me if the PA doesn't work. Fucking, it's fried. It's not working. It's practice. So I was like, right. So I took a big gulp cut and cut the bottom out and used it for a like those old cheerleaders in the 20s films, like, gosh, go college. I mean, that's what you do, right? It was just like, we didn't know any better. What am I supposed to do?
So how did you record the first album?
The first 45 was recorded on an 8-track in somebody's basement. In somebody's basement apartment. Basement studios. Because all these studios, they were pretty much set up. That little thing you have there was like this big in those days,
right.
But still does more.
Yeah, right.
But it was still the same thing. You set up here and you set up there. And,
and then you just play and...
Yeah.
You didn't have like these super engineers. You guys were just pretty much, they would just press record.
Well, yeah, but
and then they would dump it out. There was no real mixing process. There's
there
no.
wasn't mixing process. I mean, it was the real thing. It was in somebody's basement. It wasn't these fancy studios. Now, Duns and Terra is now a world famous, record producer with a world famous studio. His studio at that time of the same name, Inner Ear, was in his basement.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It was like, and he just,
He just leveled up.
leveled up.
All right. And how long did it take you to record?
I think we had enough money for like one day to record and
Wait a minute.
one day to mix. Have you heard it? It sounds like it.
It's a fact, but I'm just saying, like, I know rappers that can't even do a single song.
We didn't have any choice. We didn't have any.
How many hours were you in the studio?
I don't know.
Like maybe
6 one day and 5.
how much time did you practice before you got in
As much as we could.
there? So maybe like a month's worth, maybe. Before you went in there.
No, we practiced regularly.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like we just hung around and then, we had certain days to rehearse and twice a week or something.
Get in and knock it out. Okay. So is there any? All right. What was on the rider for your writing and creative sessions? So was it beer and cigarettes?
No.
Was it chips and dip?
Yeah, more chips and dips and cokes.
Okay,
Soda,
gotcha.
not-
Soda.
not
not cocaine.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
the other.
I was about to be like, woo!
Not the other shit.
Chips and
No,
cocaine, baby. Like that is a weird combination.
Reagan hadn't made that affordable for everybody by losing the war on drugs. Cocaine was very expensive back then, and we would have been like, what? That was for like rich old people.
Got you. Got you. All right, chips, dips, and soda, and beer hadn't got into play. All right.
What was that guy? The redneck cop show, was it McCloud or something from the 70s? With the cowboy
Deuce Has
hat. No. It was another one. McCloud. I think it was McCloud. It's not Dennis Quaid. Dennis Weaver.
Dennis Weaver.
Dennis Weaver McCloud. He did a special. It wasn't an after school special, but it was a special in the early 80s. About the dangers of cocaine, and he's like some hotshot executive, and he goes down the road and winds up screaming and crying. You know what I mean? I mean, it was a rich people's drug, so it was like a douchebag drug. It still is, but you know what I mean.
Okay, so we're wrapping up your life story.
Thank God.
I mean, we still got the podcast to do, but we're wrapping up the rock and roll. And my last question, I have 2 questions out of that, or 1 question actually.
Okay.
Top 5 greatest punk bands of all time, in your opinion.
Sex Pistols, The Ruts, The Damned, probably Black Flag, and the 5th one could be 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D. There's so many.
Just put Iron Cross on there, man.
Why would I do that?
Put Iron.
We're not in. No.
You're not in the pantheon of the greatest.
No, not top 5.
Top 100.
Maybe.
Top 50.
We're not
top
bad.
60? Top 60.
We're not bad.
That means you're out of the top 100. If you say I'm not bad, that means you're out of the top 100. You'd be in the top 75. Can we? Come on, let's just say 20. Come on, throw some balls. Put yourself in the top 75. There you go. Fight for it at least. Come on, you son of a bitch. Fight for your own band. Your bandmates are watching this, going, "What are you doing? Fight for the band." All right.
The 5th one would be. No. Well, because it changes, you know. It's all of this. And then they did that douchebag thing.
When you do top 5, it's never permanent. It's whatever you are that day. Like today, my top 5 is blah blah blah. I've changed my top 5 list for so many lists 1,000
I'm
times.
just trying to think of the 5th one because I'm like, well, in my brain, I'm going, well, no, not him. No. But that other one was better. Yeah, but that one was really good. Don't forget this one.
You would make a simple, fun question
I know.
complicated.
I'm overthinking. We'll say Bad Brains.
Okay, there you go. I'm with that. All right, top 5 favorite rock albums all time.
Albums. Okay, albums is a weird one just because at this point all of my music is MP3, and so I don't listen to albums as much. But I will say 100%, 100%. Never mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols. Gotta say the first Clash album, The Clash, because that was the first punk record I ever bought. The Damned, the Black Album. And that's a toss-up between the one before that, Machine Gun Etiquette, but I'm going to give it to the Black Album just because I love that opening track. Agnostic Front, Something's Gotta Give, because they covered my song on it.
Gotcha.
There. See, I did it just
Salute.
for you.
Thank
it's
you.
A great fucking record.
All right,
It's a
that's
great
what I'm
fucking
talking
record.
about. Man, that's how we get it in. All right, so, as you've gotten more seasoned and
My favorite Agnostic Front album.
and you've gotten more creative, you've written books,
Yes.
plural,
2 books.
and I think you were working on a third last time.
I was working on a third.
and you kind of put it to the side.
yeah.
Life happens. Don't
Life
worry
happens.
about it. Don't
It's
stress
still
about
there.
it. Right.
I'm actually trying to rekindle that.
And then I know I approached you about doing a podcast because of your great ability to speak about things that you believe in. And I love on Facebook how the engagement is so real and it's so vigorous. I felt like you talking or you just approaching music and things of that nature from your perspective would be great. And I was right. You doing Dork Time, to me, I feel like is a monumental triumph to your intellect, your social ability, and your curiosity. Your natural curiosity to dig into all types of things. Now, half the episodes, I never even imagined you getting into. Like, when you started talking about, like, the dogs we had the episode with, I was like, what the hell is this? And then you bring in an expert, and it's so intellectual. I was like, yo, this is different. It's fire. It's dorky. It's geeky. It's perfect. You know what I'm saying? Tell me about how it's been for you in the process of creating and even coming up with the episode concepts, and because this is different from music. This is a different monster unto itself.
When you first asked me to do it, I was like, what? What the fuck? And then, but it worked out well because I was right at the time where the band needed to end. It had, for various reasons. So it ended, and it led me into doing something different, and it was fun because it was very punk rock. Because I did getting into the podcast the same way that I did my books and the same way that I did my bands. I did punk rock style, which is just sort of jumping with both feet and see what the fuck happens.
That's me and everything I do.
Right.
That's why we get along.
So it was like, okay, and you were like, so check out some podcasts. I'm like, okay. So I check out, and then what do I need? And then I did, and then I did, well, what do I want to talk about? And then And so yeah, it was, because you were originally like, do whatever you want, and I'm like. And we had talked about doing a political one. And I honestly thought the last thing the world needs is another middle-aged white guy shouting.
It depends on what you're shouting about.
Well, and that's a valid point, but there's a lot of like middle-aged white dudes, and we can kind of shut the fuck up and listen for once instead of instead of shouting, even
That's
though
true.
we're on the side of right and other people. Why don't we listen to other people for a while? Anyway,
that's true.
So,
but I will tell you like this, and I don't mean to cut you off. Of anybody that talks about politics, old middle-aged white men are my favorite people to watch when it comes down to talking about it.
Well,
it's like, But anyway, actually, old white men, not middle-aged. Pause and no homo.
The idea was that I had. I've been doing my Dork Time posts just for like you come across an article of science or something, history or something weird. I just put Dork Time just so I could remember what it was in my news feed when somebody comes back and says, "Oh, I liked your post," and you're like, "What post was that?"
Right.
I mean, so I started doing Dork Time, so I knew it wasn't like my dog Kevin shit on the floor again posts. Which are different.
Which he does post that, but go ahead.
Which he just did, yes. Again. So yeah, that was the whole, and then it was like, well, why don't I do? Because I had an idea that I'm sure if I go ask a scientist to go talk about their science, they're going to say yes because people like talking about their shit.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And it worked. So I was just like, I would read an article, I was totally cold calling people. It was like, hey, I read your article about, ancient Detroit or something, and would you like to come on the show and talk to about it? You know what I mean? And quite a few of them say yes. And the ones that don't, that's fine too. I mean, it's,
Yeah. Some people are open for conversation,
I'm not
others
reading
aren't.
your trash book, but it's fine.
A little aggression there, buddy. Feel a little something? The non-response got you a little grumbly and a tumbly?
Yeah.
But
not really. Though.
It's been a phenomenal journey, I think, you developing the show. Not even just the subject matter, but the actual production of it and the way you've kind of pieced things together and created the intros and all of that. Like, phenomenal. Phenomenal, man.
If you would have fallen down laughing if you'd have seen me making that intro for the show. Because you know how I did it?
What?
I got all the YouTube clips with the sounds, and then I had them all lined up on my computer, and I hit play and stop with my mouse to get it to.
That's old hip hop for me. That's how I used to make stuff back in the day.
I didn't know all. I was like, I didn't.
Nobody knows
nothing
any.
Nothing was working, so I was like, grab the little
I love that.
cursor.
I love
That's
that.
how it went.
That's how you do it. When you making it happen, you making it happen, man. I love that. All right, so I wanted to throw something in here just as a conversation.
See, now I'd have that mix DJ thing, and I could slide them up and
Right,
But
and it
I
would be a
didn't
lot
have that
easier.
then. I was
No,
like,
you doing it rough. So